All right, on this week's episode, I am joined by my friend Kara Conway Love. I mean, how cool is that name? Like, I would have said yes to that man too if my last name is going to be Love for the rest of my life. Anyway, she's the author of Leverage Your Influence, the creator's guide to negotiating brand deals. So we talked all about how business owners can legally leverage their social media with collaborations, promotions, cross-promoting businesses with influencers, how to work with influencers, how to become an influencer, how to negotiate getting paid for these things, what music you can and cannot use, which was so insightful to me, and also just about being a mom and a new grandmother and a business owner and an attorney and how she does it all. I am so inspired by Kara Conway Love. Her dog is adorable. Kara actually first started growing a brand on social media through dogs like me. And she made this correlation to like dogs look like their owners. And so that was huge during COVID. She used that to build community. And then she started Walter's Instagram page, Walter Duffy Dog, which has a huge following on social media. And now she is using all that experience and all that knowledge and her legal expertise to help business owners grow their business online legally and not putting themselves in predicaments that they have a hard time getting themselves out of. Let's get into it. Welcome to Seriously Catherine, a podcast about taking your business seriously, but not yourself. All right, this week's hot take is all about women in sports. Yay! And we have the queen, Caitlin Clark, to thank. I mean, all the things that are coming out about Caitlin Clark, like they lost. Her team lost, but she still was like first round draft pick for the WNBA, and she's playing now for the Indiana Fever. And what I find so interesting is like I think her base salary is like something around the $70,000 mark, which is pathetic compared to what men in the NBA get paid. But she just signed this epic 8-year deal with Nike for over $28 million. And it's giving me Michael Jordan vibes. Like, did you ever see that movie Air with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck about Michael Jordan signing his contract with Nike? And so I think for sure there should be a Caitlin Clark movie about this, maybe in another 20 years. The other thing that I thought was so cool that I saw, so basically all the basketball arenas are much smaller than like the football arenas. But because of Caitlin Clark and how popular she is, they are moving a lot of the games that she's playing to the bigger arenas. So like instead of playing for 4,000 attendees in a smaller stadium, they're playing for like 10,000, 20,000. I mean, they're just bigger stadiums and she's selling them out. It's incredible. It's like you can see the wave of Caitlin. The power of one woman. I mean, this is all going back to, obviously there were other amazing athletes, competitors to Caitlin Clark, but she is really coming through and she's making such an impact on women in sports. And then I have to use this opportunity to shamelessly plug the Women in Sports team at Shaken and Stirred, which is the fundraiser for Universal Preservation Hall. And Palette has a team, and our whole theme is going to be women in sports. So you guys and girls and ladies and guys should show up and support UPH and support us because it's going to be awesome. We're going to play games. We're going to have trivia. Shots will be poured, and we're really excited, and I hope to see you there. So my hot take is that, and I think that we can all learn from Caitlin Clark that even though you lose, she is still winning, and I love that. I mean, it's just such a great message and inspo for when you're hearing no, or you lose, or you fail, you fall on your face, and you still get your butt back up, and you get go, go, go. Keep going. I'm so excited to have you here. So when I think of Kara Conway Love, I think, well, first of all, you've got like, you're Walter's mom.
Yeah.
And do you feel like that was like your first kind of intro into like being on social media and leaning into that whole lifestyle?
Well, somewhat. I mean, I started Dog Like Me before I started Walter's account, at least the concept of it, but I was getting, because I hadn't gotten Walter yet. And he was just a puppy when I had already started Dog Like Me, so I got his account up and going as soon as I could.
Yeah.
So if you go back on Walter Duffy Dog, there's, puppy, little tiny,
Oh.
like new puppy,
Yeah.
new little doodles.
Yeah, so tell us about Dog Like Me and why you started it, and were you at that time still practicing law or exploring a pivot, or what was going on?
I started Dog, I was still, and am now still practicing law on just a more limited basis, but I started Dog Like Me just for fun. I thought it was a cool idea, but I was actually walking down the street one day in Saratoga, and I saw this man. It was summertime, and he had this tight white T-shirt on, and he was this burly, sort of like very muscular guy, bald head, and he was walking like with his shoulders rolling. And I looked down, and there's a bulldog right next to him, a white bulldog, and the bulldog is walking the same way. And I said to my husband, "Love, look at that guy. He looks just like his dog." And I just thought that was so funny. And I started thinking, wouldn't it be funny or fun, kind of cool, to take pictures of people and their dogs who look alike and tell their story, maybe maybe print a book or something, because I loved to take pictures. And it, when I started actually talking to people about their dogs, it became about much more than your dog, because most people's dogs don't look like them, although the ones that do, it's pretty funny. But most people's don't, and I started to ask people, tell me about your dog, and people would say, oh, she loves to go out, and we like to hike, and she likes to play fetch, and I was like, okay, well, that's what everyone says, and that's boring. And if I'm going to share stories about people and their dogs, I have to get to the root of the relationship with the person and their dog. So I started asking people, tell me how your dog has changed your life.
Oh, yeah.
And then people started saying, well, and I got I published stories from all over the world, 45 countries in almost every state. And so it just became about every person and their dog, every kind of dog, service dogs, senior dogs, dogs with disabilities.
Yeah, or like rescue dogs.
All kinds of rescues.
And people are just obsessed with their dogs.
Yeah.
I'm one also. We had Nola when we had to put her down when Posey was 4 months old, and we've yet to replace her.
Yeah.
And not too long ago, I hear Zia, who's my 4-year-old, crying in the living room, and I'm like, what is she crying about? And we got a photo, a kitschy sort of art piece done about Nola, and it's sitting on our floor in our living room, and she's crying in front of it. I'm like, child, you have never even met Nola. You don't even know who this dog is, but we talk about her like she's still
a part of the family. Yeah.
And so it's just she'll say I just miss Nola, and I'm like, oh my God, you don't even know. I miss Nola.
You need a dog.
We do. So we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there soon. Actually, this is a total tangent, but today, this morning, Ruby can read now. She's my 6-year-old. She's in kindergarten, and it's so wild when they can start reading. And it's she's so interested, and she's she was having she was just seeing stuff on the road, in the car. And she's like, oh, what does that spell? What does that spell? That spells whatever. And it's so cool. But she came in, she bought a library book she borrowed at school, and it's called Siamese Cat. So they're really, now that we have the house, we're starting to talk more about, okay, now we're going to get the dog and the cat and the whatever. So they're really doing their research. I'm impressed.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So do these people just submit?
Well, yeah, back in the beginning, people would just send in their stories, and then I would, edit them and edit the pictures and publish them, and it just sort of became overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I never set it up to monetize it. It was just for fun, and I thought that it would be, I was building this huge community for people from all over the world, and I was working on Walter's account. So I just really got into the dog industry and social media just kind of for fun. And then people started asking me, how do you grow a community on social media? How do you do this, or how do you do that, or how do you market? And I just had learned so much along the way, and I started publishing content about how to do this, how to build a community, how to build trust with your audience, how to market, how to build your brand, all this, sort of marketing and branding stuff, and then all technical stuff on Dog Like Me. And then it just became too convoluted. The algorithm didn't know what Dog Like Me was anymore, because it was educational stuff. And then once people found out I was a lawyer, they're asking me about, the legal aspects of it.
Yeah.
So that's when I started my personal brand at Conway Love, so that I could kind of segregate that stuff away from the dog world.
Yeah.
Just nothing against dogs, but you can't do too many things on one social media profile, because you're just confusing the algorithm.
Yeah.
So then I started to really embrace my legal background and the sort of intersection of social media because I found there's such a need, not just for the influencer side, but for brands and small businesses and entrepreneurs to really figure out how to harness the power of social media to market, to sell their goods or their services, whatever it is they do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times people are like, oh, I hate social media. But it's like, why do you hate the thing that is free that you can use to leverage and grow your business or grow your personal brand? And for me, it's like, it's all intertwined, like I have these kids and I have these businesses and obviously they all are similar, but different, so it's important to always be sort of strategic about where we're placing and putting and posting and
Right. Which content goes on which brand. Because if you get too many different types of content on one brand, and the audience doesn't know what you do anymore, and you start losing that connection with people.
Yeah.
So, that's, you gotta know where your audience has to know what to expect, what you're gonna post about.
Yeah. So tell us, go back to the successful attorney, you got all the awards, right? You got Women of Excellence, 40 Under 40, I'm sure, like all the things.
No, I was actually too old for that.
Oh, like when, are you originally from here?
I grew up right in Guilderland,
okay.
right outside of Albany, and went to undergrad in New York City, and then came back here for law school.
Okay.
And worked with my worked for a large firm downtown Albany, and then I left there and worked with my father for years, and then he passed away. We had merged with another small firm, and then I eventually left that firm, started my own firm, and had a few people come with me, and then ran my own firm for, 14, 15 years almost.
Yeah, I mean, and you're still doing that,
yes.
right? You're still your own boss, and it's just an attorney of one, or you don't have a team of partners or anything. No. But there was obviously something that shifted in you, right? Where you're like, okay, I don't want to do this full time anymore. I don't want to do so much of this. And you gotta like sort of dispel like how that happened or what, because a lot of times people are like, okay, well, you're an attorney, you're a lawyer, you invested in your education and you're successful, like, why don't you just stick with it?
Right. Why aren't you still doing that? Why aren't you still working with banks? And I worked with lenders, small local lenders, national lenders, regional, big, and a lot of businesses and real estate developers, all sorts of stuff. So, and a lot of small businesses doing sort of general counsel work. But I got to the point my mother passed away in 2013, and for about a year after that, I was really rethinking what I wanted to be when I grew up. Because I was always like, I always wanted to be a lawyer. My father was a lawyer, my grandfather was a judge, my brother's a lawyer. I mean, that's where I was headed. And at some point, I realized it wasn't really bringing me joy anymore. And I felt like I was working just for my firm, instead of for myself, instead of doing it so I decided I'd always wanted to teach. And I reached out to some people that I knew at Siena College and said, hey, I'm interested in teaching. Do you have anything that I might be able to teach? And as it turned out, they were trying to bring one of the courses, a business ethics course, back into the curriculum. So, sure, I can teach business ethics, and I figured it out and got a textbook and developed a curriculum and all that stuff.
Yeah, Ford Pinto, right?
Boy, I could recite that whole case to you. And I taught the Ford Pinto case, 1973. I mean, every single semester for 4.5 years.
Yeah.
And then even just in the news, like right now, the Boeing things with the whistleblowers, like that. There was constantly new material in the news in the business ethics world. Like I could really just.
It's wild that wasn't even a class or course that they were doing.
Well, they had done it. They just didn't have anyone to teach it. So
okay,
it was part of the marketing management school. So.
Okay.
So then I was teaching business communications, and I taught an entrepreneurship class. So I really enjoyed teaching, and I knew I couldn't still practice law full time because it does take a lot of time, and I wanted to. So I scaled back my practice, went sort of on my own, and my people all left and found other jobs, and it was great. And I had a great team. It was very hard to leave.
Yeah. I mean, and how was that conversation? Was it
difficult.
Like they were blindsided, or were they like, okay, this makes sense.
Well,
she's obviously shifting focus, and her priorities are shifting. And I mean, when you lose a parent, I'm sure it's a total just shake up, and you are forced to reassess everything. I've had conversations with other people who lose parents, and they're just like, I totally changed who I am after that experience.
Well, I think you sort of start thinking about your own mortality and how you want to spend the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing I knew for sure was I didn't want to spend the rest of my life doing what I was doing.
Yeah.
I felt like I had missed too many things in life and I was working too much. The benefit of working for yourself and that I found was that I didn't miss the lacrosse games, I didn't miss the dance recitals, I didn't miss the swim meets because I could leave work and go to those, but then I was working at 11 o'clock every night.
Yeah.
And, that's just what you do, and I did it, and I don't regret that, but I knew I was over it.
Yeah.
And I had spent a lot of time in the community. I was really involved in the Women's Business Council and a bunch of other things, and I was kind of burned out on it all.
Yeah. I feel like I noticed this because when I got Women of Excellence last year and I saw your name and you were at Pallet at some point and you were like, oh yeah, I got that. And I was like, oh my God, there's a whole world of Kara Conway love that we just don't even know because we've met you on the other side of it.
Right.
So it was just so eye-opening to me and inspiring, right? Where you can constantly pivot, you can constantly change and adapt and change your mind. And go a different course.
Discover something new. I didn't set out to become a social media expert and to learn about marketing and the law and how it intersects, what the laws are around social media and why it's important for businesses and entrepreneurs to know about it. That wasn't something that was on my radar. It kind of just evolved that way because I found it interesting. And part of it was during the pandemic, I just built so many close friends online because of my presence on social media.
Yeah.
When everything was closed, I still was on there all the time. I'm a very private person, so I don't really share a lot of my personal life. Plus, my personal life is exceedingly boring. So I don't, some people, they're just, this is when I'm walking my dog and this is what's on my mind. I have a really hard time with that.
Yeah.
Because who cares? I don't care what you had for breakfast. I'm not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that just kind of evolved into this time that I was spending on social media and learning about it. And then I stopped teaching at college, but then kind of my teaching mode kept going. So I created a course and I created this community and I was teaching people online and I wrote a book and it kind of just evolved into how do I share what I know.
Right. And how do you, it's like being of service and also being compensated for that, right? So when I think of you, I think you're an excellent teacher and you all also let us know when we screw up.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're doing that.
I have a bad habit of telling people what I think if they ask me, and sometimes it doesn't go well, but other times I'm just like, well, if you ask me what I think, I'm going to tell you.
Right. No, and I love that about you. I mean, we need that. But I think I can go to your page and really quickly, you're so good with the tips and the tricks and the sort of just little things that people don't ever educate anyone on.
Yeah.
Especially with things that are changing on social media.
Right.
You're so on top of that. I don't even know how you do it. How do you stay on top with all the changes?
Well, I read a lot. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I follow a lot of experts because I think it's interesting. It's I'm not bored with it yet, so I'm still going strong.
Yeah,
I'm still learning.
yeah.
And I love that I'm still learning so much at this point in my life because I didn't want to be a full-time lawyer anymore. I'm still a lawyer. I still have clients. I still have people calling me, but it wasn't that much fun anymore. And
Yeah.
I needed to find something that was fun.
Right, and now you get to work with only the ones that you want to work with. You can sort of tell people no or refer business elsewhere. I think that's a flex, and I think that's really fun. I don't know. I'd like to be there at some point in my life where I'm I can tell you no and I can tell you yes, and sort of guard and have those boundaries.
You have to, and that was the sort of one regret from my early days as a lawyer was I had no boundaries. I did everything for everybody, including family, and it was a lot. And so the sort of wiser, older self, I said no to someone 2 weeks ago. I'm like, I really don't want to do that. No, sorry. And I gave them, here's some other lawyers who can. There's a ton of lawyers. There's plenty of people to do what I do.
Yeah, and I love referring business to people.
Yeah,
I just think it's super fun and not necessarily this is a bad client that off of my plate, but I'm not everybody's cup of tea.
Yeah,
so
and neither am I. And so and it's okay to realize that. I think that's part of just being confident in yourself.
Yeah, and growing up. I think and the faster I do like to surround myself with all different types of experiences, you know, because I do pride myself on being a lifelong learner, and like I don't want to have to learn through experience. I want to learn through your experience. So I like to be around people who are willing to share and willing to call me out when I'm, you know, doing something dumb or, you know, didn't think about the outcome. And so I think that's like very valuable sort of like role to play in someone's life. So thank you for playing that role in my life.
You're welcome. I think that people, the smartest strategy for me, if I could, from a business standpoint, are people who surround themselves with people who are smarter than they are. And that has always been one of my strengths. Like my team at my law firm, when I was still working full time, in that they were so all women, so good at what they did. And we, you know, so I've always tried to do that, is to find people who can do, you know, you can't do it all.
Right.
Whether it's tech stuff, and I can't. I mean, I struggle with tech every day. It's a nightmare in my world. But you have to find people who can do what you can't do.
Yeah. I always say like you can do it all, but you can get it all done, but you need help.
Yeah.
You need people to help you out, and I think it's a balancing act too. Because if you're always like the person that's going to people like, I need help, I can't do this, you know, it's like it's tough, right? Where I like to sort of say like, listen, I want to get all this shit done. I know that I can get it done, but I'm gonna need everyone's buy-in and help and come along for this ride, you know, because I don't want to be like up at the summit by myself.
Yeah.
I want to be with like a ton of other people. I want to be like a party.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'll go. I'm on my way.
All right, cool, awesome. So tell us about the book. This just came out.
Yep, about a month ago. It's about social media and how people who are influencers, creators, bloggers, podcasters, how they can negotiate better brand deals. But it's more than just negotiating skills, although there's a lot in there with, you know, how to sweeten the deal, how to get the brand across the table, how to get the brand's attention, how to find the right person at the brand. But it goes deeper into how to even, you know, position your brand to attract the right people, and how to position your company to protect your brand. Like, you know, that you need an LLC and you need insurance and you need to follow the FTC guidelines, or Instagram or TikTok, they're going to shut you down.
Yeah.
I mean, I see creators every single day with, you know, 500,000 followers, clearly doing a paid post without using a paid partnership label. And I post about it all the time, and I want to just send them my reel and say, hey, did you see this? And I know they know, but they just disregard it.
Yeah, and like what do you share more like sort of things that you see happening that are like big no-nos when it comes to like ads, or because I don't even know like where to even start with that, you know, like how do you even
like using using regular music on Instagram for a sponsored post or for a paid post or a collab, or they're called many different things. But let's say a brand hires you to do an ad for these headphones that you use on your podcast because you think they're so awesome and you would love to work with that brand and you should be working with that brand and getting paid for that. And you decide to record a reel or a static post or a carousel, and you put music to it from just the regular music library. Well, that is a copyright violation because you don't have permission from that music artist, I assume, unless you bought the rights to use you're using their music for commercial purposes. So every time you see a reel that's promotional, that either a creator or a brand, all the time, just open your phone and look at TikTok and you'll see a brand and they're promoting their goods or services and they're using regular music instead of something from the commercial music library. That's copyright infringement. Yeah, and where do you get the right music? Well, on TikTok, the commercial music library. On Instagram and Facebook, Meta has their version of the copyright-free music. So is that what usually comes up when you go to like post something? Like you have to look for it. You gotta look for it. It's not, and the music isn't great. I mean, it's not. You know, you're not gonna use Ariana Grande or Taylor Swift to promote your new sneaker line because you didn't pay them for it. Right. And they could sue you. So. Oh my God, I would love if Taylor Swift sued me though. Would that mean we might meet? I get to meet her in court? You would never meet her. She doesn't need to be present. Your company would be suing you and you would lose. Oh my God, but what would they get, Kara? They would get a lot of debt. Well, yeah, I mean, they might, and Instagram could shut you down because she could report your account for copyright infringement. So
Yeah. So what?
Oh, I have a question on this because a lot of people do this.
Yeah.
Whether they're podcasting or whether they're just posting things on social media. What is the cost of this kind of thing? Like, what is the licensing cost and what cost and what kind of lawsuit? Before you answer me, I'm going to have Catherine re-ask this question.
So what's the cost if you're trying to do the right thing?
If you're trying to license the music or if someone sues you for using the wrong music.
Well, yeah. So what are the consequences? Like, what's the cost? I mean, do you get a cease and desist letter? Like, kind of bring me through the process of like getting shut down and what happens next.
Well, you can avoid the problem by subscribing to an endemic, or there's a bunch of other music subscriptions that you can buy and you're licensing the music. Now, I don't think you're going to find Taylor Swift on there. You would have to go to Taylor Swift's recording studio or artist and whatever her own company and say, hey, can I, if I'm running a Super Bowl ad, can I use your music for it? And she would say, sure, pay me $3 million or whatever her cost is. So you can get the rights, and I don't know what, the music that you get from an endemic or a bunch of other sound music licensing apps, and there's tons of them. They're basically web-based. You pay a subscription. It might be $50 a month that you can pay for just one particular song or whatever.
Yeah.
The costs of not doing that are even just hiring. If you could get a cease and desist letter, but you've already committed the copyright infringement. So the person who owns the rights to that music or that photograph, for example, if you use someone's photo, this was like just from the eclipse last week.
Yeah.
All these photos are out there, and you want to reuse a photo because you think it's so cool. You don't have the rights to reuse that photo. The photographer, the minute they publish it, they own the copyright in that photo.
Yeah.
The minute I start singing a song that I wrote, I own the copyright in that song, and you can't use it without my permission, without paying me. So I can report you to TikTok, Instagram, Meta, YouTube, and they can shut down your account. I can sue you. If you have to hire a lawyer to defend that, you're going to pay more than you ever made on that, on using my stuff.
Yeah. I mean, and then how many times is it like they want the song to go viral or they want the photo to be shared a million times? Like, I kind of go back to like the creator's sort of perspective. Isn't that a good thing? Or like, how can they leverage that, right, to get paid?
Well, some creators will, and I had one recently through another palette member. It's like, I'm a musician, go ahead and use my music, and I will use her music. And I hope that other people pick it up. So if a creator puts their own music up on one of the social media sites, on TikTok or Instagram, they're allowing people to use it, that's fine. But if you're Taylor Swift, you're not putting your music up there for people to use for commercial purposes. That doesn't mean that if you're posting a video with your kids, you're just out getting ice cream or something and you're using Taylor Swift because it's on there. That's not copyright infringement because you're not promoting anything.
But if the ice cream shop paid me to show up and then I posted we just did this with Cirque du Soleil. They gave us tickets to give away, whatever, and Jess used the actual Cirque du Soleil music in the reel. So, yeah, I mean, I guess, this is the other thing. Is like, I don't know what we're doing, but Jess does.
Yeah,
So it's like leaning on somebody who's an expert in their field to sort of like handle that.
Yeah, and that's fine to do that. Like, so you're exactly right. And a lot of people think, well, if they just gave me a free ice cream cone while I was at the ice cream store, I didn't pay for it, and so I can use Taylor Swift music. No, you can't, because you got something of value.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the difference.
You gotta pay Taylor the ice cream.
Yeah.
You gotta pay her an ice cream.
You gotta get her a sundae. I mean, that's it. And flavored as she like.
Oh my God, I love that. Okay, did you have a question?
Oh, I do have another question. So for business owners who are listening, like picture palette members per se, if they're listening right now and you have like one thing you could say to them to help them take their business more seriously, what would that be? And please repeat that.
So for small business owners, potentially palette members, what is the one thing you would tell them that they can do to take themselves less seriously, but their business seriously?
Well, first of all, they can mix silver and gold, and that's not like a bad thing anymore. But no, seriously, they need to protect themselves, and that's like stepping back and surrounding themselves with experts when they need them, like a good accountant or a good accounting software, a good lawyer to negotiate contracts, or templates. I have legal templates. Like stop buying crap off of Etsy or a free website where you're hiring an independent contractor to do something for you, like graphic design work, but you don't own what they made because your contract stinks. Like
Yeah.
you didn't, so have an LLC, put your contracts in the name of the LLC, do everything you can to protect your business, have insurance. So many small businesses don't have insurance. And I'm going to be talking more about that on my social media, because I get questions about it and people are like, what insurance? Well, in my book, there's a section, there's 10 different kinds of insurance that I'm just like rattling off, just like, do you have these?
Right. Yeah. And it's we just had to renew our policy, and you had to get like loss runs. Like you had to get like a history of claims, which are all zero.
Yep.
So it's frustrating. You got to pay into this whole system.
Yeah.
And
but that lowers your premium, so zero claims is a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Yeah. And I mean, I also was sort of like raised to, even in car insurance, it's like if you can just pay out of pocket for this and settle it outside of insurance, like you'll be like, it'll be easier. But anyway, yes, that's so important.
So
and
just
I think
protecting themselves is really what I want people to do, and use social media to grow your brand, but do it the right way, because otherwise you could spend all this time building 500,000 followers for your great little small business, and you pay influencers, and then some influencer goes on social media and uses Taylor Swift's song. You get sued too, not just the influencer. The brand is at risk, and the FTC fines are, up to $51,000 a violation.
Wow.
Those are big bucks.
Yes.
So you have to police things.
Yeah, and just look at like CYA is what I say. Like cover your ass. Just always make sure
Always.
that in good faith you did the right thing. And if you're questioning, like call Kara Conway Love, because she'll tell you exactly what she thinks and the law. And then let's talk about the community you started. And how that's going and how people can get involved.
Well, it's a small membership where we talk about everything, what it's evolving to, which I love, and this is really kind of my sweet spot, is ideas. Like somebody, one of the members has started an app. Another one is now going to be starting a course, and we talk a lot about how to do that, what's going to work, and just ideas about new products. How to structure their business properly, so it's a lot of social media stuff as well, but it's more, I love to work with people on how they can, strategize business strategies. What can you do that's going to make you more money, save you time, be more efficient, all these kind of things.
Yeah, awesome. And so where can people find you? I mean, you're a member of Palette.
Yep.
Why did you join Palette? What was the thing that brought you in? And
the community,
Yeah.
because I was so involved in the community down in the Capital Region, and then when I moved up here and then the pandemic hit, and I wanted to be more involved in the community in Saratoga. And I've met so many great women here. I mean, you and Marcella are such rock stars that I can't say enough about how glad I am to be a member.
Thank you. I think it's interesting too, because so yesterday we were at an event, and we get this a lot. We're like, well, what exactly is Palette? Because I don't need a co-working space. I'm like, listen, the best thing you can do is speak to our members, because they say community a lot. But what does that mean to you, and how have you benefited from the community?
Well, I personally have benefited by getting people to know what I do, so it's helped me to grow my brand, especially as I've evolved into this sort of social media legal world where I'm really kind of finally, after it's been like 5 years, sort of coming into my own about what I can offer, like what am I good at, and helping people, to teach people, to support other Palette members. I get questions from people occasionally, and I'm happy to answer the questions if I can, and if I can't, I love connecting people to other experts who can help them. That's one of my strengths, is being a connector, and I think that's sort of either you are a connector or you're not. And I love doing that. I love helping people to find someone else who can help them.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of times that palette is like, you don't even realize you need this resource until you need the resource. And a lot of times that's legal, right? Like you didn't realize you needed an attorney until you're getting that cease and desist letter. Or
Now what do I do?
now what? Now what? So we love having you as, someone within our community that we can lean on when that sort of happens. And it usually filters through like me or Marcella, right? And then it's like, oh, we know who you need to talk to.
Yeah.
So for me, it's so nice to have this, shared resources of the space, yes, of course, but it's more about the people, and it's more about their values are aligned with what we're trying to do here, which is to advance our members in business and in life. So anything from, you need a babysitter, which we aligned up for another member yesterday, to an attorney, we got you covered.
Yeah, it's the networking.
Yes.
Without a network, it's very isolating for people to be entrepreneurs.
And also for me, I have to also, I gotta remind myself that networking can be really intimidating to people, or the connecting. Like, some people just aren't connectors, and they don't know how to put themselves out there in a way that is like,
comfortable.
I mean, some people I was actually just talking to a friend this morning, because I'm in a pickle, a posy pickle. We say when posy needs to be somewhere and I can't physically get her there myself. And it's like, I think about my mom. Like, she didn't ever really reach out to anybody besides her sister to help out, and I'm always reaching out to everybody. I'm like, anybody willing and able to help me out? And I swear to you, I will pay you back in childcare and whatever. But it's like that's a flex, being able to ask for help and say, you know what, I don't know, I don't have the means to do this, I need help. And that's like in life and in business, right? Like, I don't know what I'm doing, somebody come help me. Like, I know where I want to go, but I can't figure out how to get there. So please, someone, come with me on this journey.
Yeah.
And that's I think really hard for women to do, because there's this sense of pride. We have to have we got
to
it all.
do it all ourselves.
We got it all figured out, and nobody wants to see under the hood. And I'm like, here, come look under my hood. It's all messed up. It's all messed up, and help me fix it. And what I've gained from having that support and also being part of somebody else's experience is so rewarding, and it just fills me up. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's
well, you've built the community to do that, so it's such an integral part of really having a successful business too, because it's lonely as an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And you need a community.
Yes, absolutely. Well, is there, what?
I'm sorry, I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
Just, I'm thinking about the audience and what they might want to hear. What is the top thing people write to you in your DMs when they're panicked and they're shit, I need Kara now? And do you go by Kara or always Kara Conway? Okay.
No, Kara.
Yeah.
I always say Kara Conway Love, because I think it's the coolest name ever. And do you call your husband Love?
I do.
Oh, so sweet.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever met him.
You should.
I've only met Walter.
Oh, well,
the other man in your life.
The other man in my life. Well, he's not as fuzzy, but.
Okay, what are the main, your top sort of, DMs that you get to your personal page? What are the questions that you get? And you're sort of do you ever want to pull your hair out? Because you're oh my God, this is the stuff that I talk about all the
pull
time.
my hair out, because I will have, just posted a reel or, a carousel about something, and I'll get a question from, here's an example, from this, I think she's an influencer up in Canada, very successful. And she said, I was invited to this, YouTube event, blah, blah, blah. I want to post about it. Is it okay if I use this commercial music, this, so-and-so song, because everyone else does it? Everyone else at the conference did it. Everyone else at this YouTube event did it, and I want to do it too. And I said, well, sure, go ahead, but you're violating copyright law. It doesn't matter that everyone else did it. It doesn't make it okay. Your account's bigger, pretty big. I don't know how big theirs are. But if I'm not your lawyer, so I'm not giving you legal advice, but I wouldn't do it. So she was almost confrontational, well, everyone else, so-and-so did it, look at their post. I'm I'm not going to argue with you.
Out.
Yeah, go for it. But, it's violating copyright law, and you are at risk, so I don't, do what you got to do. But so that I get a lot of questions about that, because people just don't understand the nuance about, well, can I use it if I'm just posting my regular content? Okay, yeah, but is in your regular content you're promoting your product or service? Then no. Mm-hmm. And that's one of brands do not get that. They just, walk down the street and see the brands right here in Saratoga. They do it every day.
Yeah.
And are they going to get sued by Sony or by the FTC? Probably not, but
Yeah.
there's always risk.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, some people can get away with it, or they are getting away with it, and you may not.
Yeah.
So.
And then I get a lot of questions about, well, you just posted about an LLC. Why do I really need an LLC? I know I'm not giving anybody professional advice. I'm not a lawyer, an accountant, or a doctor. And do you have a bank account? You got $5,000 in your bank. Do you want to put that at risk? Then you should have your business in an LLC.
Yeah.
Because your personal assets are at risk. So just kind of really basic legal questions I get a lot as well.
You know what's interesting that I've recognized just from, being part of Palette and learning from people is like I have always had LLCs, but I've also always had to sign personal guarantees.
Yes.
So I'm always sort of like, what is the purpose of this if I'm
Right.
still on the hook,
Well, you're on the hook for a loan or a lease or something like that, and I actually talk about this in the book as well, is that an LLC doesn't protect you from doing stupid things like committing fraud,
Right.
or like not paying payroll taxes. When you have employees and you collect the payroll taxes, you don't turn them over to the IRS, you can not only get sued, but you could go to jail. So LLC doesn't protect you from things like that. But if you personally guarantee something, then yes, your bank account is at risk. But what an LLC does protect you is give you that limited liability from things that are, accidents. And even things like, somebody slips and falls on their way into Pallet, you're going to get sued. The building owner's going to get sued. If they tripped over the carpet manufacturer's going to get sued. The maintenance crew is going to get sued. So the plaintiff's attorney will bring in everybody. And just to defend that, you're paying.
Yeah.
You want to have an insurance policy to step in.
Yes.
So.
Well, I'm so grateful that I have all those things.
Yeah.
Even though I sometimes dig my heels in, I'm like, do I really need it? But
Yeah.
Again, I'm surrounding myself with people who are looking out for me and making sure that I am on the up and up, and that's what you need. It's a lot. It's a lot to own your own business, and it's a lot of responsibility, and it's a lot of stress and risks that you're taking, and so you just want to make sure you're covering your ass.
Yeah. And you got to put your big girl pants on and suck it up sometimes.
Yes.
Because it can be overwhelming. It is overwhelming.
So, literally just yesterday, I got an email from the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. Do you remember that? Did you remember hearing anything about this? Back in the day during COVID, they were giving grants for restaurants and stuff, and at the time, we were a cafe, and so I'm being audited. 4 years later. And I was really sort of on the phone with a guy named John. I thought it was funny, his name was John. And I'm like, John, why did I get picked to be audited? And they're like, well, it doesn't seem like you're operating as a restaurant anymore, and you got this grant as a restaurant, so I'm sure it's fine, but we do have to do this audit, and you were sort of plucked out of the group because the way in which you're operating and the use of funds and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just it's so frustrating.
And you just want to get back and do your business.
I know. How am I going to work on my business when I'm having to do all this other stuff? But that is what we signed up for, right?
Yeah.
So
the minute you put your shingle out there, I've had things like that. I've had my business identity stolen. I've had to deal with that. I've had New York State tax audits and stuff. It's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, it is.
It's life.
But isn't it fun that somebody wants your identity?
No, because someone stole my workers' comp numbers that were, this is back, my firm was closed for years, and this can come up.
Oh my God, that's so stressful.
Yeah, if people do one thing to protect their identity, freeze your credit.
Okay.
Freeze your credit today. Go to all 3 credit agencies and freeze your credit. And that way nobody can open a credit card in your name, get a mortgage in your name, borrow money, or otherwise steal your social security number. Do it for your kids, do it for your husband, do it for your wife, whatever.
So when you want to do that, though,
you unfreeze
it.
Unfreeze it temporarily, 30 days, and then it goes back into be frozen. And
oh, cool! I didn't even know that was a thing.
It's a thing. Do it.
Oh,
do it.
I'm gonna go freeze my credit.
Go freeze your credit today.
I think it's funny too. We just bought this house, and so Mark's like, we could actually bust up our credit now because we bought this house and now we're done. I don't feel like we're ever gonna buy a house again because it was such a fiasco.
Yeah.
But we're not gonna do that. Mark's such a rule follower. I would probably go bust up my credit, but
Well, he probably has his credit frozen. If he's
He probably does have it frozen already and hasn't told me.
and maybe yours is too, and you don't even know.
Maybe.
That'd be good.
Maybe. Well, thank you so much for being
welcome.
here. It's always a pleasure. Anyone who's interested, go and buy this book.
Go, guys,
It's
buy
on
that book.
Amazon. We didn't even get into this.
We did. Well, we
This is-
talked a lot is the content that's in the book. We did talk
But
about
it's
it.
self-published.
Yeah.
You know, that's like another sort of like
It was-
loophole that I don't think people
learned
realize.
so much. Oh my gosh, I can't
Yeah.
even tell you. Just like this was, I felt like I gave birth when I finally got this thing on Amazon. I honestly like had a fourth child.
Yeah, yeah. Well, congratulations. It's a boy.
Just congratulations, you published your own book.
Yay.
But more to come on that. And,
Awesome.
and leave a review on Amazon if you read it, because I need those to help market it.
Yes, awesome. Well, thank you so much. Okay, this week from Saratoga Living After Hours, I'm going a little off tangent because there is big news in Saratoga, and it is that Kane the kitty was found. So months ago, in the dead of winter, this kitty cat was taken from its home and brought to the shelter because it was sort of like loitering, the cat, and it was like sort of coming into a deli, local deli that, you know, it was no longer welcome at. I have a feeling that the health department, like, you know, kind of cracked down on the deli, and they were like, hey, you should probably not have a cat inside. And the owner of the deli took the cat and brought it to the shelter and allegedly threw the cat like into the woods when he realized that the shelter was closed. And there's footage of this sort of all coming to light. Social media, like City of Saratoga Springs, people turned against this deli. I mean, everyone was looking for this cat. Everyone was looking for Kane the kitty. I thought for sure Kane was dead. Because this was like the end of January, I believe, that this cat went missing. And I did. I'm usually a pretty optimistic, hopeful person, but I was convinced and believed truly. I told my kids the cat died. The cat's donezo. And just last week, there was a post. There's actually a Facebook page like boycotting this deli. I'm a member of it just to stay informed. And they found the cat. I'm shocked. Kane the kitty, a miracle kitty, was found. And so I guess he's been living at somebody else's house for a couple months or a month or so, and they couldn't find its owner, and I guess it didn't have a collar. I don't know the deets, but I'm just so grateful. And if you don't believe in a higher power, this is proof that there is something else at play. I mean, Miracle Kitty Kane, he's back. And hopefully we'll never step foot into this deli again because we would risk this all happening again. So happy that Kane the kitty was found. And I want to meet this cat. But also this weekend is Derby Day. So the Kentucky Derby is May 4th. It's on a Saturday. And it's a very big day in the land of Saratoga Springs because we're such a big horse racing town. So all the horse people show up who aren't there in real life in Kentucky. They go all out here in Saratoga. So there's Saratoga Sponsor a Scholar Party at the Lodge, which is a super fun event. Saratoga Sponsor a Scholar, I'm on the board. It's an amazing organization that supports, mentors, sponsors, high school kids for 4 years. It's just it's a great program. I love it so much. And their annual event is Derby Day. So that's happening. Lake Avenue Elementary is having their centennial celebration on Saturday. I'm sure there's a lot of people listening who went to Lake Avenue, and you should show up and celebrate with us because it's a really big deal. Franklin Square Market is having a Derby Day block party, which is really cool. So Franklin Square Market is a local grocery store, locally owned, and it's right downtown in Saratoga Springs, and they're blocking off the street. There's going to have live music. There's going to be food specials. There's going to be drinks. So excited. And we actually went there this weekend for lunch, and it was amazing. And they're going to open a restaurant there, so I'm really excited about that. This is really important. You do not want to be distracted by Derby Day and miss out on Mother's Day, okay? Because it is coming in hot. And on Thursday evening, Small Packages is having a pop-up Mother's event. So you can come and pick out stuff for your mom. You can build a custom box of goodies for your mom. Or if you're a mom, you can come and just buy things that you want for yourself because your children may not, or your husband may not get it for you. So take it into your own hands, mothers. Get yourself some treats. 6 to 8 p.m. on May 2nd, which is Thursday, and it's at Palette, 480 Broadway. I am so excited. Small packages is my go-to for anything that ever happens. So you can actually purchase packages based on occasion. So if something awful happens, if a baby is born, if someone gets engaged, if someone gets a new job or is going through a rough time, you literally can just deploy a box of thoughtfully curated gift items to that person with a handwritten note. It's just so efficient, so productive way to show you care. So I'm excited about that. That's all I got for you from Saratoga Living After Hours. Today in Hoverland, the school that my oldest 2 children go to is celebrating 100 years of being in existence. So they're having a centennial party celebration this weekend. But leading up to it, there's a lot of things that these girls have to do to show their school spirit. And today they had to dress up as a different decade. So Ruby, my 6-year-old, had to dress up like a flapper, like 1920s and 1930s. She wore like a long dress, sort of like knee-length dress with tights and boots. You know those little necklaces, the choker necklaces that are coming back right now? Mm-hmm. We use that as a headband. And I also stuck up pipe cleaners in there. And I was like, this looks just like feathers. She wanted one of those flapper headbands, which we didn't have. And I don't like having to go buy materials for one day, like a costume. I'm not going to buy a costume. I'm like, let's just make do with what we have. And so that's what we did. And she totally bought it and was excited to go to school with a choker on her head. And then Posey had to dress up like the 2000s, which I thought she should wear denim on denim, like the whole Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake thing, but she wasn't having that. So she wore black tights, and then she wore my a striped black and white shirt, which I just told her that it looked very millennial. And then she wore my smiley face sweater, which is sort of maybe the 90s, but I told her that it was totally millennial. And then I told her we should do Space Girl buns, like Scary Spice used to have the buns on her head, and so that's what we did. Oh, and she wore a pair of Converse. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about my culture being someone else's costume, but it is what it is. So we went to the house over the weekend to check on things, and they are progressing. I'm just staying positive that we will have a place to live in a couple months, because our rental house lease is up at the end of July and we can't stay any longer. So we may be homeless for a month, or we may be camping on the property, which would be super fun. My mom was in town visiting from New Orleans, and so she just left on Saturday. And Saturday was tough because we had 2 birthday parties, 2 different kids, 2 different birthday parties. Nana needed to get to the airport. We also had soccer, and we had the last of the Girl Scout cookie booths. Like, we had still over 200 boxes of cookies that we needed to sell. And so we had 3 different booths going. I'm one of the troop leaders, so it's a lot. And I'm just grateful that we sold all these cookies. I'm grateful. Shout out to Mary Gavin, who bought 50 boxes to drop off at the Franklin Community Center. That was huge. That gave us the momentum that we needed to stay positive. We were optimistic that we would be able to sell these cookies because Mary Gavin bought those 50 cookies right off the rip. So that's the power of social media for you. I totally leveraged social media to sell these cookies, and I appreciate everyone that supported these girls, because I don't know what we would have been eating cookies for the next year. That's a wrap in Hoverland.